All right, here's Civics Chapter 1, Section 3. Last time we talked about citizenship, how to become a citizen, um, your rights and duties, underneath the United States government. So now we're going to go into, government, what it does, and the forms of different styles of government throughout the world. Um, you know, what is government? It's really just a system that the nation or a state or community, city, what have you, that uses to manage its citizens. You need some kind of system of organization to control everything and to make society really work. Um, so why do we need it? This government that we have here. Well, in simple terms, to maintain law and order. So like you just don't have people, stealing things, just running amok and everything like that. Like there needs to be some kind of law and order in society to make sure that you're safe, your money's safe, your house safe, your belongings, that there's fair trade and everything. Without the government, society would just be unsafe and unpredictable. Without the government, like there would be no regulations on trades. Like without the government, there might not be food at the grocery store. Some days, it's just things like that. Just protecting, our everyday way of life. Um, and that we can like function and agree together and come up with solutions, that the society can just work well. Um, like I said, like regulating the trades of goods, providing safe drinkable water, sewage systems, buildings, roads. Um, this is all, you know, things that the government provides. So the world would be a pretty scary place without the government. All right, so some types of forms of government. Um, we have, monarchies. Um, they uh, are a form of government that you either have a king or a queen. The king or queen is the highest ranking person in a monarchy. Um, they pretty much rule and have the final say. At least they used to. Monarchies are pretty much have ended throughout the world. There's very few left. Especially after World War One, where there was really a bunch of kings and queens, and pretty much after the war, that kind of all dissolved. Um, but then, you know, how monarchies really dissolved was because they defeated in war, such as World War II, or they were overthrown by revolution. Probably one of the most famous ones is the French Revolution. You see it in the movie or musical Les Miserables, and that's when the famous phrase is off with their heads. That's really like off with the king or queen's heads because they don't like them anymore. So that's how a lot of them were, um, dissolved. So, you know, most monarchies are constitutional monarchs, meaning they really don't have a say in power. If they're more just a ceremonial figurehead, like that particular country just never had a revolution against their king or queen. They just have more of a peaceful revolution. They didn't chop off their heads, like the French did. Like in England, the queen is a constitutional monarch. She doesn't really have any power or say in government, but the people love having a queen in England. That's just something that they love. That's part of their culture. So, they keep her around. She just has no say in the government. She's just really a ceremonial placeholder. Our republics, there's no king or queens. Um, they're elected officials um, that make the government decisions, and the citizens um, really have the power in a republic to make the laws and decisions. It's not like a central figure like a king or queen making those decisions. All right, a unitary system of government. All the power really comes to central government. So we have the United States, then we have individual states like Pennsylvania, and then we have like cities, and then we have counties, governments, we have city governments. So really, in a central government, in this unitary system, only the central government would have the power. Like the states, counties, cities, townships really wouldn't have much power. Really, all the laws and everything are decided at the central level. In a federal system, the government's power is divided between the central and local government. It's kind of split. Each level of government exercises powers independently. This is what the United States has. We have a federal system. The states have powers that the national government doesn't, and vice versa. The national government has powers that the states don't. Some of the powers that the states have over the national government is that they have power to regulate schools, assemble local police forces, things of that nature. The national government really does not get involved in those types of activities. But the national government has power of their own. They have the power to declare war and print money. Like there is no money that says Pennsylvania on it. Like Pennsylvania does not print their own money. It's the national, currency of the United States. And Pennsylvania can't like declare war on Canada. That just doesn't happen. That power is reserved for the national government. This is just showing you, this is a good diagram, the difference between the federal, and unitary governments. you know, uh, so unitary, like there's a standardization of laws across the entire country of like France here. Example of that in like in the United States, like even the legalization of marijuana, it's legal in some states, not legal in others. But in France, if there was like a law to legalize marijuana, like it would apply to the entire country. Um, you know, that's why it has like changed quickly. It says because like it applies to the whole entire country. Like the legalization of like marijuana in the United States, like that's taking a while. Even though gay marriage, it was legal in some states, but it took a while. Now it's legal in all states. So it just takes a long time. But it's slow. States have to allow it, and then it moves on. All right. Some other systems of government. Um, you know, you can have a confederation, which is a league of states that enter into a union or a group. A league for a limited purpose. Each state kind of maintains their own government and leader, and has their own independence, but they come together for a cause. Uh, the most famous one, relevant to us was the Confederate States of America, which was pretty much the southern states in the South during the Civil War. They were a confederation of separate states, and they came together for the purpose of fighting the Civil War. It would have been a lot harder if the states tried to fight the war, individually. So they came together into a confederation so they could fight the war more successfully. Um, they tried to do, unfortunately, since they were confederation, that was kind of their downfall, because at the end of the war, individual states were kind of, they didn't like that. They were the Confederate States of America. The country itself was turning into a lot like the United States, where the central government of the Confederate States of America was, taking away a lot of states' rights. So they kind of imploded on itself. All right, so dictatorships and democracy. Um, so a dictatorship, it's one person or a small group that control the entire government. A dictator's power is unlimited. The dictator controls and maintains power by military force and intimidation. So some of the famous dictators, throughout the past 100 years was Kim Jong-un in North Korea, Saddam Hussein in Iraq, who was the United States help end his regime, and then Joseph Stalin of communist Russia. So those are just some famous examples of dictators. Most dictators oppress their people. They give their people very few choices of freedom. I mean, that's just the nature of dictatorships. Dictatorship really, all control of the government is by one person. So there's no elections. Um, I think that's, um, they make it illegal for the people to criticize, their leader, and the punishments are usually very harsh. It's just you ruling with an iron fist. Um, like I said, they're not usually elected by the people, so the people don't even get to choose their dictatorship. Dictators take control by military force. And if a dictator is elected, it is really a result of a false or fixed election. Uh, Even in Russia, Vladimir Putin, even though he's not, he's supposed to be elected and that he's not actually a dictator, he is, and there's false elections. I think so that's pretty known. But there's a fake facade, if you will, of him actually being elected, but he always wins. Here's Kim Jong Un. Uh, he is the current leader of North Korea, a communist country, and he pretty much controls everybody, um, and everything that happens there. And he even tried to force, who knows how successful he was, but that all the men in the country have to have that haircut. Here's Saddam Hussein, and here's Joseph Stalin. So in a democracy, it's different than a dictatorship. It's pretty much the complete opposite. So dictatorship, you have one person. In democracy, it's the people. So it was created by the ancient Greeks to stop kings and queens and dictators from ruling. Demos meaning the people, and kratos meaning rule. So combining the words, it means rule by the people, not by just one person. So in a democracy, the power is shared by all the people. In ancient Athens in Greece, during town meetings, all the individual citizens would come together to make decisions. That is called a direct democracy. Now, um, direct democracy is a little impractical because if you would say can we get the entire state of Pennsylvania together to make a decision, and then we go around in a room and make a vote? Well, that's just impractical. That's millions of people. So, but in a direct democracy, everybody shows up and they physically, talk about it and make a vote. But that's how they used to do it in ancient Greece. The most common form is representative democracy, and this is where citizens elect representatives to go to government to make decisions. So people themselves don't go to make the laws or decide things. We vote for people that represent our beliefs and what we want. This is what the United States has. We have senators and representatives that we send to Washington, D.C. to make laws that benefit us, the people that voted for them. Our senators are Pat Toomey and Bob Casey. That's Bob Casey, Pat Toomey. We elected them to represent us as Pennsylvanians in our interests as Pennsylvanians. All right. So just taking a look here. Democracy, oligarchy, dictatorship, anarchy, monarchy. Democracy, ruled by many. Oligarchy, we didn't really talk about that, but that's the rule of a few. Anarchy, that's ruled by none. Anarchies usually don't last too long because it's just mass chaos. Then we have a dictatorship ruled by one, and a monarchy is also ruled by one. So they kind of same there. The difference really between a monarchy and a dictatorship is a monarch usually passes on, like their son becomes, or daughter becomes, the king, queen. That's usually how that goes. A monarchy that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Dictatorships are almost always bad. It's just like you rule by power, you rule by force. So that's kind of the difference there. Um, so in a democracy, you can choose your central leader, and there's really two types of leaders in democracy. And there's two types of systems how they elected: the presidential system, the parliamentary system. In the parliamentary system, the leader of the government is elected by the representatives in government. The leader is called the prime minister. England and Canada has prime ministers. So the government, so you vote for let's say a senator in government or a representative, okay? And then all the representatives together, they elect the leader of the country. So it's not a direct election of that person. Uh, Yeah, the people do not elect a candidate, but allow their representatives to choose for them. So that's why it's really important to elect a candidate that represents you, because they're going to be casting a vote for the leader of the country. And then we have a presidential system, which is what we have in the United States. The leader of this type of government is called a president. Um, and then it's usually elected directly by the people. So you literally go to the voting booth and you elect this person. You're not trusting in your senator or your representative to vote this guy in or woman. You're punching their name on the ballot, like that's who you want to vote for. Like every 4 years, the United States votes for a new president. That's how we, you know, make change, and have our voices heard in government, and have our voices heard in who leads us. So that concludes section 3, chapter 1. Um, it's just talking about the different forms of government and what forms the United States has. And it's important to know that, because as citizens, we need to be informed of what kind of government that we are representing.